So far, every week, if not every day, this year, 2020, teachers at iTutorGroup have come to me asking why they aren't getting booked. After I ask them a few questions, I usually get a bit of an idea as to where they could make improvements. Before going on, I need to say something very important. I'm making this video to help teachers understand how scheduling and booking works, and to understand what changes they could make in order to give themselves a better chance at getting more classes. I can't guarantee that I can provide you with a recipe for success. I'm just telling you what I know and what has worked for me and other teachers at iTutorGroup. How do I know what I know? Well, it's a combination of reading a very eye-opening announcement, chatting to other teachers, and talking to members of staff at iTutorGroup on several different occasions. The announcement, titled Important Key Initiatives Coming Up and Crucial Information Regarding Scheduling, was released by iTutorGroup on March 27th of this year. You can find it by going to Home on your teaching dashboard and then clicking More above Announcements. In this video, I'll give you a very detailed breakdown of the 4 priorities and other key information in this announcement, and give you additional insight and advice, a lot of which isn't mentioned in this announcement. For your benefit, I would advise watching this video until the end. Grab a cup of tea and settle in. Before we even start talking about any of these 4 priorities, the very first thing every teacher should do is make sure that their profile is in order. That includes making sure your photo, your ID, your certificates, and everything else is all in there and good to go. That includes a solid intro video on your profile, one for adults and one for juniors. One more little extra disclaimer for extremely good measure. If you have any problems following along with what I do in this video today on the dashboard, on the teaching portal, remember to clear your browsing history, cookies and other site data and cached images and files in your browser before fully closing it and opening it again. You can do this by pressing and holding Ctrl-Shift-Delete on Windows with your browser open, or Command-Shift-Delete on a Mac. Alright, let's take a look at the first priority when it comes to getting booked. First priority, student preference. We recently learned that bookings are heavily weighted by student preference, which leads to having students follow you. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's try to understand student preference a bit. Different students prefer different teachers for different reasons, which might include things like accents. Some students might prefer a North American native English accent, for example, whether a teacher is male or female. A mum might notice that a little girl, when learning English, feels a bit hesitant and intimidated when having class with a male teacher. So she might favourite and follow female ones. I can understand that. And other preferences too. I'm not totally sure, but it seems like most of the preferences are things that are out of our control. So let's focus on the potential preferences that we can control. I think a factor to take into account is the way we look on camera. Looking professional, having neat and tidy facial hair, ladies. Being clean, tidy and presentable. I think all of these things might play a big part in student preference, as well as being a good teacher. Is there anything else we can do in order to get students to follow us? Remind students at the end of class to follow you. When a student sees your teacher profile before or after the class, they have the option to click a little heart next to your picture and name. Once they click that little heart, they follow you. It puts you in their list of favourite teachers. This apparently is one of the factors with the most impact on bookings. It really helps you get booked. So you could politely remind students to follow you after the class if they liked you. You could draw your face with a little heart next to it and a mouse cursor clicking the heart, or a finger tapping the heart if you want, something like that. Might be a good idea at the end of the class. Just don't be too pushy when you do it. If you check on the consultant teaching portal, teaching, then weekly sessions booking, you can see little hearts and little thumbs next to the time slots. After doing a lot of asking around, My hunger to know the difference between those hearts and thumbs has finally been sated. The descriptions of the hearts and thumbs that we can currently see here are apparently outdated. So what I've learned is, in a nutshell, thumbs are better than hearts. A heart means the student follows you. They clicked that heart button in your teacher profile. And it means you're likely to get matched up with them at that time that you see in the time slots. Apparently a thumb or a like means that the student follows you and the scheduling algorithm favors you as well. It sounds pretty complicated, but from what I know, and just to keep it simple, thumbs are better than hearts. Second priority, latest 50 session average rating. You can check yours by going to teaching, then feedback report on the consultant portal. Note that 9.5 is generally the threshold to qualify for most session types, such as demos, OUPs, and more. From my experience, new session types are released quite frequently throughout the year. The more session types you unlock, the more chance you have at getting classes, right? A latest 50 session average rating of 9.5 to 9.7 is considered excellent, whereas 9.7 and above is considered outstanding. There are many teachers that maintain that outstanding latest 50 session average rating of 9.7 and above. So in a sense, and for lack of a better word, it gets competitive. So the big question, how can you get and maintain a latest 50 session average of 9.7 or above? I really think this is a question that iTutorGroup teachers tend to obsess over and make to be a bit more complicated than it really is. I'm not saying it's easy in practice, because it isn't, but in theory, it's simple. So what's the theory? This is worthy of a whole other video, but I just want to sum up what I think keeps my rating high. 5 things: attitude, interest, knowledge, effort, and cultural awareness. I have a positive attitude and I'm always smiley in class, never stressed on the surface. I'm interested in language. I'm interested in the people I teach. I'm interested in their lives and their English progression. I'm interested. I like to think I have a bit of knowledge when it comes to grammar and how languages work. I like to be able to explain things properly. I like learning new things about English grammar and linguistics. I put in the effort every time. I work hard. Sometimes I feel great when I'm teaching. Sometimes I don't. I have my good days, my bad days, my good classes, my bad classes, and it can be difficult, but I power through. I'm aware that students are from different cultures, and I understand that they might display different behaviours and opinions to me. Sometimes these differences are radical, but I don't get offended and I don't overreact. I stay calm and respectful and remember to be culturally aware. Overall, I keep up my attitude, my interest, I show my knowledge, I put in the effort, and I remember to be mindful of cultural differences. That's the theory, my theory. I apply it, it works. If you want to be good at what you do, I mean really, genuinely want to be good, then think about these things and try to be good at what you do. I tend to hate monologues like that. I'm not trying to give you an ineffective, cliched, TED Talk-like lecture of, everything you've heard before. I'm really not. I truly think this is how you can stand out as a teacher, and it helps with ratings. If you are struggling with your ratings, I encourage you to attend any training offered by iTutorGroup, whether it's watching the videos or reading the blogs, and, any ESL online teaching training that you can find anywhere. Again, at iTutorGroup, you can find loads of free training on the consultant portal if you go to training and then training portal 2.0. Third priority, MPT and peak hours. MPT means my prime time, and we use it to refer to our weekly fixed schedules. This is the next most important thing, our fixed schedules or MPT and the peak hours. If you go to teaching, then weekly sessions booking on the portal, you can then click edit my prime time. From here, you can click new and then select the weekly fixed hours that you want to teach. You need to first tick at least 5 peak hours in order for the rest of them to open up. You can then add as many as you want. The peak hours are the darker colours, and these are, of course, the hours in which you're most likely to get booked. Once you've selected your schedule, give reasons for the change, and submit it before the 25th of the month. Once approved, it will be effective the following month, and those will be your recurring weekly fixed schedule hours until you decide to change them again. You don't need to submit your MPT every month, you can just leave it as it is and it will roll on. 2 things really quick. As I mentioned, a minimum of 5 MPT peak hours is mandatory. This could change in the future, and depending how far in the future you are, it could already be different. So double check that, it usually tells you on the side. Also, the peak hours are often seasonal. They change and move around depending on national holidays, what season it is, and whether school's out for kids or not. So it is a good idea to check every once in a while just to make sure you're covering as many peak hours as you can. On weekends, particularly on Sundays, in Beijing Taipei time, which is GMT +8, teachers are usually in high demand. So that's a good time to schedule. Also, pay attention to those hearts and thumbs when choosing your schedule. The more of those you cover, the better. What about one-off hours? This is, I think, one of the most important parts of this video. If you go to teaching, then weekly sessions booking on the portal again, you'll see your MPT or fixed schedule hours marked with an M. While here, you can schedule, by ticking a box, any extra availability that you have in hopes of getting a class at that time. These are one-off hours and they won't recur. Again, going for those peak hours and where you have thumbs and hearts is better than just clicking at random. Be careful when scheduling these hours and make sure, double check that you're definitely going to be available to teach before you submit. From what I've learned, you can untick your extra added one-off hours with at least 24 hours notice without any repercussions, even if the scheduled hour is booked with a class. However, you can't do it within 24 hours. You'd actually need to submit an official session cancellation, which you want to avoid. What I'm about to say next is very important if you're someone who schedules these one-off extra ticked hours. It's better to do it in advance, especially if you're wanting to get OUP classes. A week in advance is advised if you're looking to get OUP classes, and at least 24 hours in advance for any other classes. Don't schedule them 5 hours before and expect to be booked, even if they have thumbs and hearts. The earlier you schedule them, the more likely you are of getting them booked. Here is the kicker, and so many teachers don't know this. It's my understanding that you are more likely to get booked for your MPT fixed schedule hours rather than for your extra one-off booked hours, even if you schedule your one-off booked hours way in advance. So personally, I would recommend altering your schedule so that you have more MPT hours, ones that you can commit to, and just try to add any booked hours here and there if you think you'd be available. That's what I do, and I think this helps me a lot. For a long time now, I've had about 31 or more hours in my MPT or in my fixed schedule. It makes sense to me. The fourth and final priority when it comes to getting booked is your attendance stability, your reliability as a teacher. This includes absences, cancellations, and disconnections. I strongly advise reading your own service agreement so you can get to grips with the terms of absences, cancellations, and disconnections. Let's start with absences. Avoid them. I get the feeling that there are many teachers out there who think everything's cool and it's okay as long as they don't hit that dreaded 6th absence. But if you are someone who's had some absences recently, that's going to affect your weighting on the booking algorithm. You might feel safe knowing you're nowhere near that 6th absence, or you've used some free passes, you still have some free passes left. So you think, it's okay to just miss a class here and there, that's fine. It isn't. That's an awful mentality to have, in my opinion. Awful. Bottom line is you can't just purposely not show up and expect nothing to happen. Obviously, if it's not on purpose, and I'm sure for most of us, all our absences are not purposeful, it's frustrating when it happens. But it will usually only affect your bookings in the short term. I just think you should do everything in your power to avoid getting absences. Getting into the class on time can be a difficulty for many teachers, especially when you have a lot of 25-minute sessions, back to back to back to back. So if you check the comments below this video, I've actually left a useful video that I made a while ago on how you can avoid being late for your classes and how you can make sure you're always on time. So go to the comments and check it out. Cancellations. One of the biggest perks of this job is the flexibility. iTutorGroup stands out when it comes to flexibility. However, if you abuse that by cancelling a lot, you should expect a bit of backlash on your bookings, especially if the cancellations are urgent. Personally, I only cancel classes when I need to take a break for a week or two, and I do that, every 6 months to a year. Here's my little trick. I submit one single block cancellation, not lots of little ones. I think that's much better than submitting lots of little cancellations. Now, look, I gotta hold my hands up and say, I don't live your life. You might have a lot going on that means you have to cancel a lot. That's understandable. Remember that this is priority number 4, not number 1. So it should only affect your bookings in the short term. With that being said, I treat this job as I would any other job. I show up, I don't let the company or the students down, and I only take time off when absolutely necessary. I work my life around my job. I don't work my job around my life. I understand that you might not be in the same situation as me. You might be working your part-time job as an iTutorGroup teacher around your full-time job and around taking care of your kids. I know a lot of people are doing that. I just think that, we should all be mindful of how much we're cancelling and try and organise our schedule a bit better. One piece of very sneaky advice I'd like to give you is don't cancel for 30 days or more, or don't be inactive for 30 days or more. This is because your account will be put on hold, and getting reactivated isn't always as simple as you'd hope. That's what I've seen in some cases, not in every case. Disconnections. We're responsible for our own equipment, including our internet connections. I'm not saying we can always control it, especially internet connections, because you and I both know how frustrating and unreliable internet service providers can be. However, it is our job to make sure, apart from, getting all the equipment that we need, a computer, a camera, a headset, lights, whatever, it's our job to make sure that we've done our bit to secure a solid, reliable, high-speed internet connection. Learn how to connect to your 4G hotspot from your computer to your phone, so in case your home network fails you'll have that second option. It's saved me quite a few times. Also, don't pretend to get disconnected just because you don't like the class or the student that you've been matched with. I know, or I hope, I'm speaking to the absolute minority here, but Xing out of a session in order to avoid a student or avoid a late cancellation or avoid an absence just isn't the solution. If you do have a genuine emergency, contact PMIT on Tutor Chat and they'll help you out. When it comes to absences, cancellations, and especially disconnections, how many of them will actually affect your bookings? Who knows? I don't know. I personally don't think that it would be a good idea for iTutorGroup to share that information with us, because it would be abusable by that minority, unfortunately. If you ever have any kind of emergency or urgent situation, reach out to somebody on Tutor Chat. Whenever I do, they help me out. Although these situations can be really stressful, especially if we're not quite understood by the support team, such as the schedulers or PMIT, we need to keep calm and make sure that what we write is short, concise, and easy to read. I'm an emotional person, and when things start going south, I do get a bit passionate. So I have to remind myself not to respond emotionally and try to understand that, the support team are probably working under pressure as well. It's not just me. We're on the same team, so it helps to be clear, considerate, and to, focus on the facts. Another reason that it's a good idea to reach out to someone on Tutor Chat when you're having, a bit of a situation is because then you've kind of got it on record that you tried to get help. It's always better to be able to prove that you attempted to reach out and fix a situation in time rather than staying silent. Screenshots really help here. I have a really unique, organised way of taking screenshots of things that I think might help me in future if I need them. To know how to do that, check the comments. It's one of the videos that I've put in the comments there. I think it'll help you out. Okay, I want to close this video off by quoting a section of that iTutorGroup announcement that I mentioned before. And I'm just going to read it from a script, if that's okay. The more key factors you possess, the more likely you will be assigned sessions. Of course, some clients' preferences may be beyond your control. However, stable attendance, peak hour bookings, and outstanding teaching performance are factors that will always be highly regarded, and we believe all can be well managed by dedicated consultants. If you have any questions or you want clarification on something, I will respond to every single comment on this video. Try me. I hope this helped you. Good luck. Thank you for watching.